Hey
All
guys,
right, man.
welcome to episode numero uno of The Cat Show, covering all topics with yours truly, Albert Joseph Catanzaro. And
Oh, man, he mentions his real name.
yeah, they were
I was wondering
announcing
if
me
you were
by
going to
that.
do that.
They were announcing me by that this weekend on the live coverage. And my co-host, Bryce Rankowitz. I think that's how you say it. Let's hope.
Yes, sir.
Um,
How long have we been friends and you haven't mastered that last name?
Bryce has been a friend of mine for a long time. I think he became my man friend at the gym. And then we realized that we liked literally all of the same things. So Bryce race some wood stuff and motocross and dirt bikes, rides mountain bikes, road bikes, pretty much has all the same passions that I do. Um, and Bryce
Just
also
nowhere
is the
near as
person.
good.
Yeah, I like to just beat
I'm
Bryce at
constantly
everything.
chasing you. Yeah. Yeah. You've
uh,
single-handedly ruined my life in every way because no matter what I do, in the back of my head, I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to keep up with AJ? How am I going to one up AJ? I never do, but I come close.
but it's good motivation for me too, because I just know that I can't ever let you beat me. No matter how crappy I feel, I will never let you beat me.
I know I love
Bryce is
seeing your
also
mom last.
my financial advisor. What else are you? You're
I'm a master of nothing, but an expert at taking experts and relaying that information to you. I know a little about a lot that for some reason I can get to you the easiest of anyone I know. But you take it all in and you use it all. So it just makes it easy for me to keep telling you things that you're listening to.
you're my impulse
But
controller.
dude, it was so funny. It was so funny at Foxborough last season. That was the last time I saw your mom, and she literally came up to me and she said, "AJ's getting mad at you because I'm finally starting to be able to beat you in things." And I know it irritates the hell out of you. It's so funny to me.
Yeah,
That's what
can't
keeps
let
me
that
going.
happen. Can't let that happen.
And we'll see. We'll see what happens
So
this
this
Swift season.
podcast will be basically talking about everything except for politics. Sorry, Bryce.
Hey, those are off limits here. This is a safe
Uh,
space.
but I mean, this isn't going to be a moto specific podcast. I think we'll talk about a little bit of everything, which is kind of my mentality in life anyhow. I like to learn a little bit about everything. So we're going to have a bunch of cool guests on uh, from the moto world, from outside the moto world, talking about literally anything you can think of. Um, this first podcast, episode number one, is sponsored by SGB Suspension. And Jason at SGB has been a supporter of mine for the past 2 years and has really changed my life on the bike. And I think, Bryce, you could probably attest to how important suspension actually is.
Absolutely. I mean, no one can say it better than you, but the principles of a properly dialed suspension, they cross over motocross, they cross into woods riding in mountain biking too. And I'll tell you, man, it is such an art form to dial in suspension. The average person cannot appreciate the hours and hours of engineering, the hours of fiddling with different settings and learning like how the different variables affect that stuff. It's really incredible to me, and I saw that firsthand. I mean, you are oftentimes on the phone with Jason regurgitating what you've experienced in a ride on the phone, and he's remotely giving you cues on what to do to your setup.
Right.
Like, that is awesome that he can take in your feedback and say, oh yeah, you need to go 2 clicks in here or there, or you need to add air. I know you're off the air this year, which you're relieved
Thank
about, right?
God. Thank God. No more air ever
What's
again.
funny is, that's such a, I mean, the, it's one of those things, man, because I prefer on mountain bikes, I prefer the air just because it's so easily adjusted. And I know it's not exactly apples to apples there, but and a lot of guys still like spring. But what I think is really cool, which I'm hoping that maybe if it comes out for the moto world, that Jason could kind of get a hold of and run with is on the mountain bike side of things. And they might have it for the moto world, but I just don't know about it. They have like now these diagnostic things that you can actually attach to your bike, two forks, two shocks. Cork makes one. Cork is a company who does like power meters, different bicycle analytical stuff.
Right.
And this thing is called the Shock Whiz, and you literally thread it onto the Schrader valve for the air pump on the fork and on the shock, and it has a mobile app attached to it. It does a Bluetooth signal, and it actually has you go through different riding scenarios. Like it'll pull up a screen, it'll show you, or it'll have you do, rollers. It'll have you do jumps. It'll have you do rock gardens. And then at the end of the ride, it'll give you like a breakout of what your baseline air pressure is, your spring ramp, your rebound, your high speed and low speed compression. And it'll actually show you like where you are on a scale and what you should do to the settings to like really get the best benefit out of the whatever setup you're running. I mean, it's really, really cool. I'm surprised that you don't see more of that in moto. Maybe the big team guys have it.
I think the factory teams have stuff like that. But obviously it would be cool if it was more accessible to the public. Could you imagine being able to,
this thing,
rather than it being a guessing game every time you get off the track? And because other than that, I mean, the only time we know for sure is if Jason at SGB were to take my stuff off and get it onto a suspension dyno, right? That's really the only way, other than that, it's him relying on me giving him accurate information. And half the time it's hard for me to tell what's what. And I'm sure that's the case with a lot of riders too. Like you're landing in a section. I'm like, oh man, I'm bottoming out and blowing all the way through. And then I'm like, or maybe it's so stiff I'm not going through the stroke. And it's like, well, which is it? Because those are two pretty big differences. And when you're riding the bike, you could sit there and focus on it all day long, but sometimes it's hard to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so that poor guy's got a tough job.
You want to use every bit of that suspension, but it's critical that you're using it in the right places and not in the others. I mean, and that's a challenge I'm guessing for you on a modern day supercross track is especially on a place like Daytona, for example. That I know you struggled with setting that up because the track was
suspension nightmare is Daytona because every year. So just real quick, and we'll move on from suspension talk, but Daytona this year, we went into it expecting it to be more like an outdoor track. So Jason at SGB came up with a setting that was similar to my last year's setting, which was pretty much a straight up outdoor suspension setting, I believe. We show up, we go out for first practice, and of course the track this year was very supercrossy. So the setting didn't work at all. So we had to go right back to what we ran the weekend before and then adjust it from there. So you're always kind of trying to dial it in and fine tune it. And I think maybe for the local guys riding the same 3 or 4 or 5 tracks every weekend, it's probably a little easier. But when you're riding a different track 17 weekends in a row, it can be hard to find that setting. And everyone's going through that. I'm just lucky that I have somebody that I can call up and talk to, or if Jason's right there by my side, it's just nice to have somebody there that can really walk you through it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if any of the listeners out there need that help getting set up with their suspension, and I think AJ would attest to, it's probably the most important first step in getting your bike dialed, and all the riders out there would most likely agree with that. Go to SBG Racing.
Dang it.
I knew I was going to do that. Dang it. I knew I was going to do that. SGB-racing.com and try to link up with Jason and he'll help you get dialed. So thank you, Jason.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. Cool.
So moving on into straight rhythm, obviously coming off a huge high, it was awesome to watch. Obviously you as one of my very good friends, totally stoked about it. It's always a fun event. It added another factor for me seeing you there, which was freaking awesome. But just rehash it for us. I mean, you're still riding that high, huh?
Yeah. It took 3 a good 2, 3, 4 days for it to really set in because didn't have time to take it in. It was just one thing after the other, and it was kind of like a whirlwind. And now the past 2 days, I've actually had the time to lay down on my couch at home and watch it back on TV and uh, think about what the heck happened. It's pretty cool. I mean, as a racer, and you've seen it, you've been my friend for a while. Like, you could have so many bad races in a row, and for me to work as hard as I do, and for things to just keep feeling like it's going wrong, going every weekend, like you leave disappointed. Um, it's hard. It's hard to stay motivated. But then you have one race, and I know this wasn't a supercross race, but hey, still, it's a race, and it was equally important to someone like myself. It just gives you that motivation, like to go out, and I knew I would do well. I knew it because I've always been at a disadvantage on bikes, and I'll never use that as an excuse, but I've never been on the best equipment. And when I got linked up with Spencer and his bike build, I knew that I had a pretty fair shot. Like, everyone was on a really, I don't want to call them slow, but 125s are slow. All of us were on slow 125s. And I was like, well, I can ride a slow bike really fast. So this should be pretty good. And I did. I mean, I was the fastest person really throughout the whole weekend. I know Carson was fastest once he started busting out that 2.332, which was definitely faster than the rhythm I was doing. I just wanted nothing to do with that jump. But it was such a fun event. So fun.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm so happy for you. I know a lot of your fans. You embrace the whole retro thing the best. The James Stewart throwback was awesome. And you, in case everybody doesn't know, you got what you were looking for. What, yesterday? 2 days ago?
Yeah, yesterday, I think. Yeah,
The
I
big
put up a
James.
post. Yeah, I put up a post. I'm like, you know what? The cherry on top, icing on the cake, is if the real JS7 would just like one photo on Instagram. Like, that's all I want. Just like one photo. And everyone was commenting like, "Oh, I don't think he has his Instagram anymore." And I was agreeing with them. Like, yeah, I'm sure he doesn't. He hasn't posted in over a year. He hasn't liked any photos in over. I doubt he has it anymore. So somebody must have spread the word, whether it was Malcolm or maybe Roger Larson or somebody that's in James's inner circle, or maybe it wasn't even James. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was Roger Larson that went on his account and liked it. But whatever it was, we got that like. I was pumped about it. People were excited about it. It was just a cool project, and I'm glad that I was able to ride the bike well and
Yeah, you did it justice. You did it
right,
justice.
do it a little bit of justice. You know, I wasn't trying to fill any shoes, which a lot of people were saying. It was just a tribute. I was paying homage to somebody that was literally my hero growing up on a dirt bike, and I think he was a lot of people's heroes. And I just wanted to do it a little bit of justice, and I think I did. I mean, watching back the video, granted I wasn't scrubbing, but I was doing that on purpose. I was going pretty fast, and I did pretty well.
So yeah, I wanted to get there. I wanted to be the one to bring that up, but I'm glad you did. So, obviously, the Bubba Scrub, everybody was looking for that, right? And I don't think that people appreciated that it would not have helped you in the instances that they wanted to see it. In fact, it would do exactly the opposite, right?
Right. The only place it would have helped, and I used it, was over, I call it like the booter, the triple jump that they had set up. And that was the one jump on the track that you saw me go really sideways on, along with everyone else, because that was the one jump
Right.
that was bigger that you could actually scrub. And
right. So you think about it, the littler ones, you're taking like all your forward momentum, and the 125s, they're just not powerful enough to get out of that if you're not landed perfectly. You know, the 250 is a little bit more. You can come in a little bit more of an angle and kind of power out of it if you needed to. But the 125, you're really concentrating on getting that bite fast and getting that drive forward. I mean, you saw it like when you were driving way better off into the whoops. There's plenty of sections where you're coming down, you get the drive, and that initial drive is where you catapult. So,
and
I mean, It
people don't
makes
realize
sense.
those checkup jumps, whatever they were calling them, were like 2 feet in length. A 2 foot jump isn't enough time to get that bike totally laid over sideways and try to do something that looks good. First of all, look like doing something that looks cool is the last thing in my mind. Um, the whole goal was to charge up as hard as you possibly could, brake as hard as you could going up the face of it, and get the wheels back on the ground, get the wheels back on the ground straight, and try to get that drive. And I think it was obvious, like landing the wall before I was the fastest, without question. I was the fastest 125 in the whoops, like by a lot. Um,
Yeah, no
and
one would argue that.
I didn't have the fastest bike either, but I was getting the best drive in. And I'm also really good at keeping the bike light in the whoops, which helped me. But a lot of it was due to the drive that I had coming in. A good
For
comparison
sure.
of this technique too would be like, look at a guy like Shane McElrath or Dungey versus Villapoto. Villapoto was fast, don't get me wrong, because he attacks with everything he has. But he was really throwing the bike sideways and putting like 10 times more work in than McElrath or Dungey were. But he wasn't able to be as precise and get the wheels down and get that forward drive as well. I mean, McElrath is, Dungey is too, but Shane is a perfect example of just being precise, putting that bike where he wants it, not doing anything he doesn't have to do. And that's what you have to do on a 125. The bike is so slow. All of them were. When I say slow, I don't want to offend Spencer or offend anybody that was involved with that bike, because that bike
Right.
was amazing. But when you race a 450 for a living and then you have to get on a 125, they're all going to seem slow, and it makes it like a game.
Exactly. Yep.
Which I love. You just have to hit your marks right, which I wish, like, it would be so cool if we all went back, or I grew up in a different era, I would have been so much better riding slow bikes like that.
Right. And I mean, no one who knows you is going to say you don't know how to scrub, right? Because you have
Right.
some
If
of the
anything, that's what
nastiest
I'm known
whips.
for.
Right. Exactly. I think
Oh,
the
the
event,
irony.
straight rhythm event, what's up?
I said, oh, the irony.
Oh, you know what? Before we go any further, I want to bring up something that you said, and it's going to be a common theme in this podcast for anyone who listens regularly.
Did I just say
Is
it?
that no, you didn't. You didn't.
Oh.
You didn't. But you can you say the what was you were paying tribute to James, right?
Yeah.
What was the word that you used?
Oh no! What, did I mess up another word?
You're paying blank. Yeah, it's
Did I
pronounced
say it wrong?
homage.
What do I say?
It's pronounced homage. You said homage.
Oh, did I?
You did.
Oh
You did.
no!
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a grammar. I'm not even the police. I'm like the Interpol. I'm grammar. Like I'm I'm the grammar military police. Like in I'm constantly correcting AJ. I'm not going to reveal what the term is that he says constantly. It drives me insane.
I thought I revealed it already, but it'll come up this
No,
podcast.
I know it absolutely will come up. So I'm going to correct you on every single one of those little things. We're going to get you speaking correct English by the end of this thing.
Okay, great. I need it. I only made it to 9th grade. I need my education.
Aw, that's cute. So, as a fan, straight rhythm, I think, is awesome. And I think it's really cool to have it so close to Energy Cup. And the events are just so much, obviously, they're similar with dirt bikes and a track, yes, but they're so different from the typical AMA Supercross because they're a lot low pressure. The straight
Right.
rhythm is really low key. It's pretty chill, and it's really emphasizing fun. And it's cool to see that. It's cool to see what I would explain to people is you're basically watching the last lap of a main event over and over again. Like I'm seeing like an Anderson Seeley battle a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Every race, and that's awesome. So as a spectator, as a fan of the sport, it's really cool that they're starting to throw more of the stuff in there. That's a break from the typical grind, Because I mean, let's face it, like as a fan watching on TV, 3 hours is a big commitment to watch a whole Supercross race from qualifying to the end of the night, you know.
Right. And
And
if
for a
you're
rider,
locked into a
you're there.
20 lap main event, if you're locked into a 20 lap main event and it's a runaway, somebody's checked out 2 laps in, well, I got to sit through the rest of this 20 lap main event. Where straight
Yeah,
rhythm's never like
exactly.
that. I mean, even if it was a blowout of a race, it's only 40 seconds and then they're lining back up again and you don't really know what's going to happen. I just wish that
Right.
it was cool to see the riders that were there, how, like, fully embrace it. Like Dungy, Villapoto, Josh Grant, all of these guys, like, were loving it. Yeah, I just wish more people would embrace it. I know, like, their schedules are insane for somebody like a Tomac and all these guys that are doing the full series and then they have to do Motocross of Nations and do God knows what. Um, I guess it's probably hard for them to find another weekend to put aside, but for
Right.
someone like me, that was the most fun race I've ever done by a long shot.
You know, as a fan, I genuinely think that right now is the best time to be a fan of the sport because of like these different events that are popping up, the social media engagement. Like, I think from a marketing standpoint, Red Bull killed it with doing the throwback. Like, it created way more hype. I loved the 90s were better bit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that was like genius. And it was just really fun. And I think that's what makes it so cool is that it's not the pressure of the championship on the line, you know, race after race. It's kind of a one and done. You get there, you have a great time. You put on a good show. It's awesome. It's awesome. You know what I think I would like to see as a fan personally is if they were to do Energy Cup and Straight Rhythm a little farther apart. And the reason I say that is because like they hype both of them up in October. You know, they're close together. They get you all hyped up. See the guys back on the bikes again, and then you have to wait another 2.5 months for A1. And if they were to maybe just bump Straight Rhythm back a little bit, I don't know if everybody else's schedules can do this, but um, as a fan, I think it'd be cool to hype Energy Cup. You know, get back into the fan mode and then kind of give you a little bit of time to digest that and then anticipate Straight Rhythm and get you excited again as opposed to just laying it all out there
Yeah, I
within a
think that
couple
would be
weeks.
cool. My only argument for that would be, I think the reason A1 is so special is because you've gone a couple months without seeing much of any of these guys, and like it's always like the excitement of who's gonna do it, like who's gonna be the guy. But with Straight Rhythm's such a different animal, I don't think that would really affect it because this was like perfect example. I could have raced the 250 class, and I think I could have podiumed the 250 class, and like there could be upsets all day long in Straight Rhythm because it's 45
Right.
seconds. You make one mistake, you're done type thing. I
Yep.
think Monster Cup is bit more of a telltale of what could happen. Like seeing Savachi go out and kill it gives me some pretty good confidence that Savachi's gonna be quite the threat in Supercross, which I
Yeah.
was
He
not
impressed the
expecting.
hell out of me.
Wow, me
I think
too.
that shocked everybody. And I mean, he was consistently good. It wasn't like a fluke thing. Um,
Unreal, and then
you know,
handled
I'm
the
glad you
pressure
brought
of
that up.
leading well. Like he was unbelievable. I would not have
Yeah.
expected that. What were your thoughts?
I loved it. Well, you and I talked about this offline, but so Tomac obviously is on fire, right? I mean, I genuinely think it's his championship to lose this year. Um, I think Marvin's going to give him a run, hopefully. Although this Savaji variable, we'll see how that plays out. I think that'll throw an interesting mix in there. But the Energy Cup was awesome. I was rooting for Eli. I want him to do well. I wanted him to win the million. Personally, I wanted him to win that last race and not have to pass Savachi. Like, take all the tactics out of the equation, and it makes sense. Savachi lets him go by. I get it. Some people hated it. Some people loved it. I was kind of indifferent about it. I just wish like he was on such a charge, such a tear. I wanted it to be like Foxborough, where he had to pass Marvin in the last lap
Do you
or
think?
2 laps ago.
Do you think he would have got him?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he had enough, but you never know.
I
It's
would say
possible.
no. You never know. You're right, but I would say no, because think about it, where he let him by.
He did. He ran out of time. He was running out of time. There's no doubt about it.
2 tight S turns. You had the sand straight, or that big wall jump into the sand straight, which, if anything, Savachi was actually probably faster there because he was jumping in an extra whoop. And then what it would have came down to is a last ditch effort in the last left hand turn before the finish. So, and Tomac would have had to slam him to make something happen. I think if Savachi didn't let him by, it wouldn't happen.
So anyone else up there in the same position?
It would have been cool to see.
Right. And it's just kind of my thoughts from watching it happen. Is he won the $1 million, but it was kind of, oh man, I don't know. I feel a certain way about it. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I just feel like he won it, but they gave it to him. So,
see, in my mind though,
as much as he worked, like, dude, I mean, no, and I'm not trying to take that away from him. Like, he was on a tear that last main. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I'm not trying to take that from him at all whatsoever. I'm just saying from the perspective of being just a fan of the race, I wish that it was somebody else up there, and I wish that he could have passed him. I want him to win. It's one of those things, man. I just feel the way about it. It feels like Crawley. Up there? Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Like, I don't necessarily look. I'm taking Savachi out of the equation too, because I don't think there's a scenario where Savachi doesn't let him by to win the $1 million. I don't think that would ever happen. Whether it happened the third lap or the last lap, I think that when they both realized what the positions were, he was going by, and then Savachi would have played some defense. I don't think there's any doubt about that either. Savachi wasn't letting anybody by him to contest for it. I'm saying take Savachi out of the equation. I thought just because the way I felt afterward, I was like, he won, and I wanted him to win. Don't get me wrong. I rooted for him the whole time. But it just felt a certain way. It didn't feel dirty. It felt like.
Did you feel robbed? Did you feel robbed as a fan?
I wouldn't even describe it. Maybe groped. I feel like I was groped. Like, it wasn't necessarily robbery, but I don't know. I just left.
I hear that.
I don't know.
All I know is that fan. What the heck? I would have been pooping my pants, because watching that last main event and they had him up on the big screen and he was freaking out. I just put myself in his shoes for a second. Forget Tomac. Like, I think this kid was probably more nervous. My heart rate must have been 170 sitting there in the stands, like, just imagining if that $1 million was on the line for me. That was unbelievable. The whole it was cool. It was cool to be there and watch it. Like, I'm glad I didn't have to race it and I was able to actually sit there and watch, because that was pretty wild to see.
For sure.
He lost his shit. He totally lost his shit, which I would have too.
I can't even imagine. I mean, who do you think he's going to root for this Supercross season?
I'm Muskin.
Probably.
I tell you what, though, like, before the third main event went out, the announcer's sitting there about to interview Tomac on the line, and this kid is sitting there next to Tomac, like, I think saying something in his ear, hitting him on the back, and I'm like, oh my God, this is not good for Tomac. Like, this kid, like, Tomac's got to focus on what he's doing. He can't have this kid. I mean, you throw one little wrench in, like, your normal routine, and it could seriously mess you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it all worked out, though, right? I mean, you got a couple millionaires out of it. Everyone was entertained. It was fun. Yeah,
Savachi got a little bonus, I'm sure, from Tomac.
Oh, probably. I would have to imagine.
I'd say a cool $100,000. Sounds about fair.
I would think so. Yeah, at least. At least. Um, so yeah, I mean, heading into Supercross 19, some industry news, some shakeups, some stuff happening. We could talk about kind of what your preparation is going to be, but I want to touch on something that has kind of been, it's something that's affected not only this sport but other sports, and that's specifically with referencing moto and Supercross is Brock Tickle, man. You know, indefinite suspension, right?
What is the latest on that? I haven't heard anything about it in quite some time.
So I think that he had appealed a second test for a second test and they denied it, or he appealed the suspension and they denied it. FIM denied it.
Oh, they did deny it?
That's the last I heard. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But last I knew, they denied an appeal. But we've seen the story play out before with banned substances, right? But I have a kind of a problem with this one, and I'll tell you why. And you and I have talked about just from a cycling standpoint, and we both watched that documentary Icarus. And that is such a widespread issue in cycling with EPO and all those crazy doping scandals in cycling. But I feel like this is a completely different animal, because I think and someone out there will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the substance that Tickle got clipped for was what the heck was it called? Methylhexanamine or something like that. Yeah,
dimethylhexanamine.
That is in like over the counter performance substance supplements. And I think what was the big one that I had in there? I think Jack 3D. Jack, at some point, I'm pretty sure that Jack 3D had that substance in it. So you're gonna tell me that an athlete who's and I'm not, look, this isn't a referendum on what Tickle took and what he was trying to do or whatever, but there's so many things out there that are deemed quote unquote performance enhancing substances that are available over the counter. So that means there's no FDA intervention for approval or anything like that. You could go and buy theoretically, Brock Tickle could have walked into any supplement store, bought something with this product in it, and then popped for a WADA violation. That doesn't sit right with me personally.
Well, the problem is WADA doesn't give a crap. Like they don't give a crap about Supercross. They don't give a crap about motocross athletes. And the punishments are designed around an Olympic. It just goes to show you, like, they should not be governing. Should there be some type of performance enhancing test done? Sure. Yeah. I'm not even that adamant about that, honestly. Like, but yeah, just to make it fair, yes, there should be some type of performance enhancing test done, but it should be from Feld or from the AMA so that we can have our own punishment, so that if something happens with Brock Tickle or anybody else, they can figure it out in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in a month, not with the Cade Clausen incident, with the James Stewart incident, with Brock Tickle, where these poor guys aren't hearing back from WADA, period. Like, I talked to Cade about it. He was emailing and calling, and he wouldn't hear back for months on end. And this is our career.
Hey, there is no doubt in my mind. You watched Icarus, right? I mean, wouldn't you? And what was the other one?
It's all corrupt. All of it is corrupt.
Yeah, it's just completely corrupt. And look, personally, man, I feel like there's a difference between, and I'm not going to go into any specifics with any athletes. I'm using this just primarily as an example, not a reflection of my thoughts on any individual. But there's a difference between a substance like Adderall that has an amphetamine in it. Whether or not it's prescribed or not, I'm just saying scientifically, it's an amphetamine versus something like this that's a mild stimulant at best. I think there should be some sort of scale there that weighs those types of things. Because I mean, and then I think part of that conversation could then go to who's ultimately responsible for monitoring that stuff. Because you could make the claim that, hey, maybe he was none the wiser on what he was taking. Maybe there was something in it that one of his supplement routines that had it in it and he just genuinely didn't know. Is that ultimately falling directly on Brock Tickle or any athlete to monitor that? Or is that, in your opinion, would you say maybe the team has some sort of culpability there to say, hey, what's your regiment looking like? What's your training look like? Are you taking this, that, or the next thing? Like,
Well,
is that happening?
that's where my suspicion comes in. Brock Tickle was being trained by arguably the best trainer in the business, Alden Baker. You knew that, right?
Yes.
So
I wasn't going to go there, but that's kind of where I was nudging is,
so
where
Alden Baker should know exactly what his athletes are taking. I mean, he's getting paid a couple $100,000 a year from his athletes, however much, a lot of money. He should know. I'm can only assume that he knows exactly what is in everything he's giving his athletes. So either he just straight up doesn't know, which is insanity, or Brock went rogue and just took something that wasn't that Alden didn't know about. I don't know. This is where my suspicion comes in a little bit because a Red Bull KTM athlete like that training under Alden Baker, I don't know. It seems like you would know better.
Yeah, and it's not like I don't think he would roll the dice. I mean, new team, Red Bull KTM, like I don't think. I mean, is that something you gamble? Like, oh, hey, maybe I get tested, maybe I don't. I don't think so.
Oh, like I know exactly what I'm taking, I think. And when I first started taking this weight gainer stuff because I have such a hypermetabolism issue, so I'm taking this weight gainer. I was all worried about the weight gainer, so I went to my man Bryce and I asked you like, what were your thoughts? I sent it to my trainer. I asked a bunch of people, and I was like, is there anything in here I should be worried about? I pretty much got the clear from everybody. And then I went ahead.
Right.
I don't know. It's such a weird thing. And so when Cade was popped, pretty sure Cade had the same issue that Stewart did. Something about they were both prescribed for Adderall, but they didn't have a TUE, which is a therapeutic use exemption. So you need to get a TUE from WADA to be able to have permission to use this, even if you're prescribed from your doctor. So even if you're prescribed from your doctor, you have to have a TUE. And I believe that there was some type of mix up with that with James and Cade. In my mind, though, that would be a bigger advantage, Adderall, wouldn't you think?
I would absolutely think, not to say that I have any personal experience using Adderall, but
I feel like I would be a beast.
From
I
what
don't
I've
think I've ever
heard,
taken it.
put that in air quotes. From what I've heard, yeah. Here's another problem with something like what Tickle got popped for is, and just using this as an example, no idea if this is what Brock was taking. For everybody listening, this is just for reference to how dicey this can be. Is 2015, United States filed a lawsuit against Jack 3D because it was being manufactured in China and they were labeling it as a natural extract, but in actuality, it had this methylhexamine in it. So you would look at a label, the average person would go look at this label and they would see, oh, natural, I forgot what the plant was, guaranine or something like that, or geranium, I think it is, a flower. So they would see geranium extract, but really that's like a term that they're using to hide the methylhexamine. So you could theoretically go buy this thing, look at the label, say, okay, great, nothing looks like it's banned in there, and take it and then get a positive result from it. So like I think certainly there's got to be some more culpability on like supplement company. That's a whole nother bag of worms and a whole nother discussion we could have. But supplements, kind of in general, there's anything goes really. So there's some issues there too.
But would the easy solution here not be if WADA would communicate, not be for Brock to just simply say, okay, these are the supplements I take on a regular basis. I have this, and this. I have these 5 items I take. Let me send them to you. You test them.
Right.
If you're innocent, if you're Brock Tickle and you didn't do anything that was sketchy, then you can only assume that whatever the heck was found in your system had to have been in those 5 supplements, right? So if they test them and it's not in there, well, yeah, then maybe you're screwed. But if you're innocent and you're being honest, then I would say that it's probably going to be in there or pop up somewhere within that. The problem is that as simple as that sounds, if Watt is not communicating with him, but once every 3 months, he's going to be, his career is going to be over by the time any of this is solved.
You're exactly right. I think if WADA is going to have such a wide range of things that they're considering banned substances, and it's neither here nor there whether or not they are or what the performance enhancing aspects of anything is, but if they have such a wide encompassing list, they owe it to people. I mean, like you said, this is how they make a living. This is how they're supporting themselves, their family, what have you. They owe it to these athletes to at least be somewhat proactive in coming to an arrangement. I mean, if you get popped for cocaine, that might be a different story. But something for as ambiguous as like a tiny stimulant in a number of different supplements, that to me, like that's what I mentioned. Like there needs to be some sort of like weight system of things. Like marijuana, okay. Cocaine, sure. Methamphetamine, yeah, obviously. Then that there's not a whole lot of excuses I don't think you could point to for those. But these little nitpicky types of things, I mean, the idea that Brock Tickle would just go out in search of that type of supplement, knowing full well that it's on a banned substance list, I don't think that's even in the realm of possibility, to be honest.
No. Man, it just all frustrates me so much thinking about it. And I feel bad because I do like Brock a lot. And he's a super nice guy. And he works hard just like everyone does. And same thing for Cade. I mean, we all forget about Cade, but this didn't happen but not even 2 years ago. And he was, especially for Cade struggled so bad in Supercross. And he was really terrible at it at first. And he worked at it. He stayed at Club MX. He got better and better and better. He was at the point where he was, fighting to semi-consistently get into 450 main events. That's huge for anybody. That's huge. And for that to be taken away because they didn't get his TUE papers like properly filled out. And that's the thing. I think they got them. They just weren't filled out right. And now all of a sudden Cade's career in the US is basically over. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yep. Well, I don't want to spend too much negative energy on this. So, I mean, why don't we go on to something that I'm personally super pumped to see. Chad Reed, Factory Bike, 2019 Supercross season. I mean, how awesome is that?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
No. I you know what? I think that he is the epitome of what grinding it out on the sport can do. I love the fact that he's still riding. I can't believe that he's still riding, but I mean, he's a huge draw for the sport. He consistently will get the biggest crowd reactions for anything he does on the track that's even remotely cool or good or, makes this pass, that pass moving up the field. I just love it. As a fan, I mean, I'm just on your reaction. I'm interested to hear what you say, but I like this idea. I'm pumped on it.
No, I agree with that. And I think, I mean, I may have issues with the way he acts as a person sometimes. But as a racer, like he's Chad Reed. He's a legend. And I think it's so cool that he put and this is the biggest thing. So Chad Reed, one of the most ego-driven. You have to be ego-driven to be at the top. You just have to be.
Have to be.
I think that's a lot of the reason, I haven't succeeded to the level that maybe I could have, because I wasn't willing to. Yeah, I'm selfish in a way, maybe compared to some, like, the average
nice
person.
guys finish last. Nice guys finish last,
Right.
or 19th or 18th or 14th.
Yeah. But it's cool to see a guy like Chad Reed put his ego aside, like last year, for example, and just go out and try his best. He wasn't totally prepared. I know he came into the season injured, but he made main events consistently, and he
had the dad bod going.
Oh, he definitely had a dad bod, and he got better and better and better, and it didn't seem like.
But I loved that. Like,
right.
I
love that too.
That he just came in and just, I mean, he, like, obviously a legend. He relied on all natural talent, muscle memory, and everything, unprepared, but he still went out and he ground out the whole season, and that is awesome.
Where someone like James Stewart, on the other hand, would never have done that. Right? No. James Stewart was the type where if he wasn't
case in point
dominating a race, he would pull off. Where maybe Chad Reed would have been. No, Chad Reed was never really one to do that. But now, like, I just thought it was so cool to see. And, like, the last race, Vegas for the finale in May, I'm pretty sure he was winning the heat race or something like that. And it was Tomac trying to get around him. And he led for a while and battled for the crowd was going berserk.
Yep.
It proves your point. Like, anything he does that even is remotely cool, and that was really cool, but anything he does that's even remotely cool, like, people lose their mind. And we need that. I mean, the sport definitely needs that.
For sure. I'm going to flip the coin for a second, and I'm going to literally just contradict everything I just said, just for the sake of conversation. Now, do we think, and I'll go into my opinion, and I want to hear your analysis on this. Do we think that Chad Reed getting a factory bike, and now Dean Wilson finding himself not on a factory bike right now, that to me, now I'm just dissecting this as like a logical person would, not a fan of either one, although I'm fans of both. I mean, does Dean Wilson right now, is he more competitive? Is he more worth a factory bike than Chad Reed? Like, if you were to put them both side by side, and a factory team would have to pick one or the other right now,
based
who would
on
they
what?
pick? Now, obviously, the timing,
based on speed and results, or based on the whole package?
The whole package. I mean, actually, let's not say the whole package. I think my point before was the whole package embodied in Chad Reed.
Right.
What he does for the sport, what he does for the fans, what he does for the crowd. Like, I think that is Chad Reed. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no question Dean Wilson is talented as hell, fast. He's found himself in kind of some precarious positions before with teams. But I look at a rider like him and I'm like, damn, like I want to see him on a factory bike. I don't want him to not be on Rockstar Husky anymore. And now you see a guy like Dean Wilson who should be on a factory ride, in my opinion, and Chad Reed, who's, he's at the end. Let's face it. I mean, he could ride for a few more years, and I would love to see that. But I mean, he's at the end, and he's on a factory ride over a guy like Wilson? I don't know.
So line them up side by side tomorrow. Who wins?
Dean Wilson, I think.
Right. 100%. 10 times out of 10, I would say Dean Wilson wins.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's the balance. I mean, Dean Wilson 100% deserves a ride. I mean, even a guy like Weston Pike, super solid, sure. I would say Dean Wilson's, you put him on the line with Dean Wilson's going to beat Weston Pike pretty much 9 times out of 10. It's tough. I think Dean was just put in a spot where, like, I don't know, because he's super, super cool too. It's not like he's, to my knowledge, like he's pissing these teams off, or like he's not a personality and he's not good with the fans, because he is. He's one of the best with the fans.
Right. Dude, I love the grandpa video.
Oh my God, it was
how
hilarious.
freaking funny was that?
And it was funny because you knew at first no one knew who he was. Like, you could see the reaction on like Colt Nichols' face and like those guys' faces. They didn't.
But
know.
how did you couldn't pick out his accent? I mean, I guess you're not ready for it, so it's easy for me to like watch that video and be like, you could hear that's Dean Wilson. But if you're not ready for it, and also like, what 80-year-old grandfather has perfectly crisp white teeth? Do you notice that? I would have really questioned that. I'm like,
but then as soon as you started riding, you knew that everyone knew. But that's stuff like that. Like, what other top guys is, and that's very smart on Dean's end. I mean, his YouTube, if nothing else, his YouTube is going to start catching traction. But it nowadays, especially, and people are like, they're noticing that, like, I notice it with myself. Look at me compared to other privateers that are finishing, you know, where I'm finishing, one position ahead, one position behind. Who's got the leverage there? I do, I would think, because look at how many bases I'm covering with my social media. I'm very, very active on Instagram. I'm responding to everybody. I'm doing the YouTube thing now. Like, I have the schools that I'm constantly in front of the people, and now we have the pot. Like, I'm just trying to cover every angle that I possibly can, because that's what these companies want. I mean, that has more value than me going out and getting 16th, 15th place every single weekend.
There's no doubt about it. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
So for someone like Dean, I think he just should continue to keep doing that. I think worst case scenario, and I sent Dean a text right away, because him and I, when we did the school at the end of summer, he said he was a little iffy on if he was going to get a deal or not, which I was surprised to hear about. But then he let me know, or we talked a little bit when I heard he wasn't, and then I saw his video up on YouTube where he was riding all the different bike brands, and I was like, Cowie 19, no choice. And he goes, yeah, I love that bike.
Right.
And then he goes, he's just hoping he's getting some support still from Husky. But I said, if you need any help with bike transport, I'll transport your bike for free with me. Like, that's no problem. But I think worst case for Dean, he goes out, he races 2 or 3 or maybe 4 rounds as a privateer. He does really well. Somebody's going to get hurt and he's going to have a spot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see it happen every year, right?
I mean, I don't hope that on whoever's spot he takes, but I mean, I like Dean Wilson. I like his personality. I've only met him once, but I mean, he just seems like a really cool dude. I know you guys are friends, and I just think, like, I like watching him ride. I think he deserves it. But it seems like we find ourselves kind of in this position where, like, even a few years ago with Malcolm Stewart, I mean, how long did it take for him? That was, everyone was kind of scratching. At least I was scratching my head on that one.
Well,
like, get this kid on a bike.
Right. The problem with Malcolm,
I know
Malcolm
what you're going to say.
Asking
I know.
Too much money. Yeah.
I know. Yep.
Malcolm was asking too much money. Dean, I don't think that's the issue. I think Dean, he's going to be picky to an extent. He's not going to go on some second or third tier team. He'd rather do it on his own. But I think if the opportunity arose from any factory team, he's not going to demand a lot of money, if any. He's going to go out and he's going to prove himself again. He's a good freaking rider, man. I mean, out of anyone on that,
dude, I love watching him ride.
He's in the top 5 of, like, just skill on a bike. Like, there's guys like Tomac, or not Tomac. Tomac's just kind of like one that just powers through it and is a beast. Guys like Seeley and Roxon, and Dean Wilson and the guys that are so methodical with what they do. I just like BMX style kind of. I love watching
Yeah.
those guys on the bike. It's very very cool to watch. Where then on the opposite end, then you have a guy like
Anderson. I think Anderson by
Anderson's
far
sick.
number one.
Anderson's a combination of the both. He's got that finesse, and he can put the bike where he wants it, and he's super
Anderson
skilled.
is.
But he's not afraid to
I
just
can
freaking
say
go for it.
I can say that Anderson is. If I were to have to watch one rider on every track, every round, just one person, it'd be him. The kid rides his ass off, and I love it.
Yeah,
he has the most swag on a dirt bike I think I've ever seen.
You need to go to.
It just makes it look cool, dude.
You need to go to more races in person and watch time qualifying, and just watch Anderson throw down a heater lap. It is so scary and cool to watch. Like, you're right. He has like that swagger on a bike, but he just goes for it. His jersey's flying everywhere.
I love it.
It's so cool. He just doesn't care. I mean, and it was so cool to see a guy like that win the championship too. I mean, how long has it been? Like you've had the Ryans for the past 7 or 8 years, where they're super textbook and just like straightforward, and then Anderson couldn't be any more opposite than that, which I thought was awesome.
I know. I loved it. I'm telling you, man, it's the best time to be a fan of the sport. It really is. You have I think the premier class 450 is, I mean, argue this if you want to, but I think it's the most stacked that it's ever been. Which almost kind of, it's unfortunate for the privateers. And I think another thing that's unfortunate for the privateers is the new layout of qualifying. To be honest with you, I was a fan of the semis. I don't know about you.
No, that's a good point. The semis provided, without a doubt, I would say a better chance, but also better TV coverage for the privateers.
Exactly. Right. So, and that's where I was going with this. I mean, I liked, for a guy like you, not only did you have more of an opportunity, more of like a heads up opportunity, I would say, to get into a main, but I saw you sometimes 4 or 5 times a night,
right?
Which was awesome. And yeah, I mean, I get it. I get why they did this new layout and format. Because they want the big names to be on TV the most. Mm-hmm. Correct? Incorrect?
Correct, which is the reason why they're doing this whole Triple Crown thing too, which, gosh, talk about...
Are they doing that again this year?
Yeah. Oh, I hate it. And talk about, like, the
Does anybody like it?
It doesn't seem that way. Who likes it?
I hate it. I don't. I do not.
No, it's terrible. And I think even watching it in person, because the couple times they had it this year, I didn't even qualify for the dang thing. So
yeah, maybe that's why I have like a distaste for it, because I like a lot of the privateers. Obviously, you principally being one of my good friends, I hate knowing that I could not see you at all, and that's annoying.
Period. You don't even get to line up on the gate. You have to watch opening ceremonies from the stands in your clothes. And this is totally a selfish opinion of it, like just a very subjective opinion. But at the same time, like looking at it objectively, I don't know. It doesn't really make for that great of racing. It's anticlimactic. I mean, correct me if I'm mispronouncing all this stuff wrong. If somebody wins the first moto, ooh, big whoop! Like when Justin Brayton won one of them before he went out and won Daytona. Yeah, it was awesome to see Brayton win a moto, but then it was like, oh well, that didn't really count for anything. You know, it wasn't a main event win.
Right.
Just seems different. And then the way, like, I think watching it on TV, it gets really, really drawn out. Like
super drawn out.
Watching it in person, it gets very drawn out. Like you watch one race go, and then all of a sudden you're sitting around for what feels like forever. I don't know. I don't like it, but it's back, so we got to deal with it.
Yep. Well, I wish, obviously, you the best. I think last year was tough. I mean, you had some injuries towards the end of the season, right? And that didn't help anything. This year, man, at least from my standpoint, I'm going to do everything I can to get you ready. We'll get training. I know you kind of got a great program that you've set up. Um, and I'm excited. It's kind of funny, but people might be surprised to know that right now is you're coming off your busy season, right? So people might
Yeah,
think
it's
that
crazy.
Supercross is your busy time of year. No, I'm like pumped that Supercross season because that means I get to train with you more.
I know, isn't that
The
funny?
summer, forget about it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's crazy. I don't think people from the outside looking in realize that. Like my Supercross is almost like my time off. Like I get to be home a little
you're
bit.
home during the week. You
It's great.
train
It's
during the
so
week,
backwards. Yeah, I can
and
Zwift regularly, which is nice. Um,
hey, why don't we take a second
yeah, let's stop
and
talking moto.
explain to people who don't know about Zwift because this is where you and I spend the majority of our time together, as stupid as that sounds, because it's all virtual. But since you've moved and I haven't moved with you, we spend our time in a virtual world, right?
I talk to
So
you more than I talk to anybody else in my life, other than
that's
me.
funny because
I would say I talk to you more than I talk to my girlfriend.
yeah, my wife, I even told her last year when we were like in the midst of like our daily Zwift routines, I'm like, Jen, I'm talking to AJ more than you. Like you get home, we get home from work, I get on the thing, you go to bed early. I'm talking to AJ for an hour and a half, 2 hours every day. No doubt about it. Talk to you more than I talk to her, which, hey, whatever.
So for
Bromances are real,
those of
okay?
you that don't know, so Zwift is a online virtual cycling program, right? Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, it's actually what I would call it a game. I mean, it's a mobile app, it's a computer app that is a virtual world where your avatar is controlled by you actually cycling. And we use our actual road bikes that we ride on the road during the regular road season. But when it gets cold and rainy and wintry, and AJ's riding Supercross, um, we can get on there. We use our real bikes. They're mounted to a trainer, which is electronically controlled resistance that matches the terrain in the game. So you're pedaling
Freaking, it's
along.
so
It
awesome.
gives you people who don't know literally have no idea what they don't know. But people who know that it's literally harder than real life. I mean, people don't know me, but they know you, and you don't half-ass anything. So I've been chasing you on a bicycle for years in the woods and on the road. Um, and I can draft you. I can't pull you yet, but one day I will. Um, but I mean, how many times have we said Zwift is harder than real life? And I will go to my grave saying that because as hard as I can ride on the road and in the group rides and races and even on the mountain bikes and any Strava segment that you try to hit, as hard as you could ride that, there is something about being in that virtual world with the constant cues of like the different segments that pop up to be
Mhm.
able to see the wattage you're producing, like looking at a screen with all your data on it, your cadence, your heart rate, and your split times to people ahead of you and the splits to performance that you've done previous. That it's just insanely motivating.
It's the most consistent way to train, bar none. So I just got back from my local bike shop. I just accidentally, uh, I almost said it. I just accidentally bought a new trainer, the Cycle Apps H2 or whatever. So you I bought this thing for $1,250, but well worth it. Best $1,250 I ever spent. But I sold one to a guy that was there. Like the person at the bike shop didn't really know enough about them, and they had a unit set up like for display where you could hop on it and try it. And I was so pumped about this thing, and I was able to tell him, and I was directing him through Watopia, which is one of the virtual maps. And you can agree with this. Like we're both so familiar with Watopia. I can direct around Watopia better than I can direct around my own neighborhood here in Virginia. Like I was like, yeah, once you go past the Ferris wheel on your left, you're going to take a right and it's going to bring you up this winding sprint. And it's like a 2-minute segment. And they're cracking up. And this guy bought one. He bought $1,000 trainer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Me like talking him into it. So, it's just, there's no variables. When you go outside, you have wind and you have, stop signs, cars and everything in your way. And you hop on this and it simulates incline. It simulates decline, simulates drafting, which is amazing. And there's no lack of the motivation. Like, you don't have to ride by yourself. You can go in and we need to get sponsored by these people. We talk so highly.
I know. So highly. And I'm going to throw this out there. We are kind of exploring some opportunities for some local bike shops. For anybody out there who's affiliated with any local bike shops around any of the Supercross venues this year, we want to partner up with you or your shop owner or any promoter that you have to allow AJ to have a training setup at the races. It'll give him an opportunity to utilize that as a warm-up for the race. And anybody who was at Foxborough and came through the pits, we had a setup for him. I brought a setup for him up there. So he was using that to warm up, which was excellent. Get the heart rate up, get the legs moving. So we are looking to partner with some local bike shops, give you some exposure in the pits, get AJ a nice bike setup. And I think it'd be a cool opportunity for a mutually beneficial relationship for the local guys.
Right, but what a no-brainer for a bike shop, because people walk by this thing and are instantly, what the heck is that? Like the guy in the bike shop today, he couldn't believe what it was and he thought it was so cool. So we have our group now. We have me, we have you. There's another AJ, actually. He's from Missouri. We have one of my best friends, Dom, who's from Connecticut. So is that all of them? We have 4 total. So we get on a conference call, and what we can do is we can all hop into just a casual ride together, which is never casual, or we can enter a race.
And we're racing.
I was telling that today. I'm like, going for a recovery ride on Zwift, and I'm racing.
Yeah,
it's so true.
Everything's a race.
Or you can enter.
You're constantly trying to beat your last
races.
time. You're constantly trying to beat the group. Oh my God, man.
It's a blast.
No one can appreciate it. You're in zone 4 or 5 heart rate for a very long time. It's a great simulation for you for a main, right? I mean, you're putting your body in the same heart rate zone for the same amount of time.
And it's a good way to simulate. Like, I know maybe was this last year? At the beginning of last year, I was doing that one series, it was that kind of
the crit series,
right? And it was a bunch of like professional cyclists doing it, and top Zwift riders who are all. Most of them I wouldn't say are Tour de France level, but they're national professional cyclist level.
Oh yeah, you go on. You could ride with Mark Cavendish. Right. I mean, there's big name guys that ride on this thing.
So lining up for these events, I was nervous. Like, it gets you, like, before the flag would even drop and the race would start. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm at like 150 heart rate, like nervous as can be. And it's good practice before you get to a race to kind of work out those nerves, like a dirt bike race, to work out those nerves. And then once the races start, forget about it. I mean, I think I got a podium, 2nd or 3rd at one of them last year. And it was probably one of the hardest things physically I've ever had to do. Other than, I would say, they have Alpe de Zwift. Is that what it's called?
Ooh, Alpe de Zwift. So there is a portion of a virtual world in this game that is, I think, what was our record up of it? It was 51
Almost
minutes,
an hour.
I think.
Yeah.
51 minutes of what's essentially a simulated climb. So it's a mountain climb that emulates Alpe d'Huez, which is a Tour de France stage. And I mean, so our trainers will emulate resistance that equates pretty closely to what you'd experience climbing up a mountain.
So lowest
or any elevation
smallest
gain.
chainring, like standing
51 minutes, heart rate 165 to 175 consistently the entire time. I mean, I don't think I ever went below 165.
No, I never went
The
below
lowest
170.
possible gear that you could possibly get your bike into, meaning the easiest to pedal, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done on a bike, and I'm in
Yep.
my basement, and that is hilarious to me.
Yeah. And then you get outside and it's like, oh, this isn't that bad. And you do a group ride like with the pedal power guys, and you're probably like, oh, this isn't all that bad.
Exactly. You know, and partly because Zwift, there's no coasting. You're pedaling as hard downhill just to maintain your average watts as you are uphill. So you have an opportunity to really kind of make excuse outside to lay off the pedaling. You come to stop signs, you can only go so fast before you start coasting, really. And you have an excuse to give yourself some recovery. But man, on that freaking game, it's miserable. But it's the most miserable fun.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're like drawn into putting ourselves through that torture, but it's, what is it, type 2 fun? Is that what they call it?
Is that what it's called? Where it just sucks as you're
Something
doing
like
it?
that.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks
It's
so
fun,
bad.
but it's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much everything I do. It sucks. It sucks so bad. And then you
Yeah.
get done and you're like, okay, I want more.
Yeah.
I'm glad I
know.
am that
I
way,
know.
because doing what I do would be way more difficult if I hated doing all this stuff and dreaded it each time. I just love the pain. I love
Pretty
suffering.
much.
I love like the competition. I know last week, couple weeks ago, I did a race with the other AJ, and I offered him $100 if he could beat me. And that poor kid about gave himself a heart attack, and I was kind of messing with him too. And he went for it. He did everything he could. His heart rate was like 190 plus, like basically on the verge of a heart attack. And I think I wired him like $10 when it was over, saying good luck next time or something like that. But it's just so fun.
Don't you owe me $100 from yesterday?
No, I owed Dom $100.
Wait. I thought we were going overall time. No?
Oh, no. You had to be in the same race, and I DNS'd. I didn't even start it.
Yeah.
So technically, because I forfeited, I owed Dom $100, but I'm not going to give it to him. He didn't earn it.
Yeah, I'm not Zwifting a race at 6 a.m. I'm just not.
No, that's tough.
But I'll take the next 100 from you, no problem.
Yeah, it makes
I'll be
it fun.
interested to see how this new
gonna...
trainer works out, though.
I know. I'm very excited to go set it up and try it.
Cool, man. Well, I think that's a good opportunity. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a perfect opportunity. You're going to set up your new trainer. I'm going to probably jump on right there with you. Thanks for everybody for tuning in to this first exploration of what we're going to hopefully bring to you consistently.
First of
many. A little bit of chatting about this and that, and hopefully bring you some content that you'll utilize, you'll enjoy, will entertain you. Well, like AJ said, we're going to have some cool guests coming on. I think I talked to Jay. He wants to come on of Rack Racing. And man, I'll tell you what, for people who don't know Jay Kavanaugh, I feel bad for you, because he is probably one of the coolest dudes that I have ever met in my life. So I'm excited to get some of these people on and have some cool conversations.
Yeah, heck yeah. We'll have some top racers on. We'll have my hypnotist on, my mental coach, my trainer. We're going to have on some very cool people talking about a whole assortment of topics. So episode 1 in the books, 73 minutes. Hope you enjoyed it.
Wrap it up. So let's tell everyone where they can find this thing. We're going to try to upload it to podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're going to have a link to it on AJ's webpage as well as your YouTube channel, right?
Right. So it'll be on my YouTube, which is AJ Catanzaro. It'll be on ajcatanzaro.com. And for those of you guys looking for any riding schools coming up, all those are always listed on the website as well on ajcatanzaro.com.
Cool, man. And hey, once more, thank you, Jason, for sponsoring this first episode. sgb-racing.com. Go check them out.
Yes, sir.
All right, my friend. Till next time.
Toodles.
Toodaloo.